Welcome, everybody. This is class number 4. It is Wednesday, February 9th. I am Ann Forrest. Delighted you're here, and we will get started. Our first topic is communicating after an earthquake. This is going to be super important because as soon as you have made sure that everyone around you is safe and you have controlled your utilities, you're going to want to reach out to loved ones and friends and family and let them know you're okay and find out how they're doing and find out any information you can get after an earthquake. So communicating after an earthquake is a little bit different and very, very important. So that's our topic, our first topic for today. As always, the shaking stops. What do? You check on people and pets around you. You control your utilities, and that is shut off the gas if you smell or hear gas leaking. Electricity, shut it off if you see damaged wires or you smell insulation burning. Water, always shut it off. You want to keep the water in your pipes clean and drinkable. So that's how you handle utilities. And then the next thing you're going to do is make contact with family and friends and get more information. Try and figure out what to do going forward. So that's what we're going to talk about. Do not call 911 after an earthquake. This is apparently a very common practice. People call to ask if that was an earthquake. If that's your go-to move, please don't do it. You're going to tie up the phones, and somebody with truly a life-threatening emergency is not going to be able to get through. Phone lines will be incredibly tied up right after a disaster. So do not call 911 unless you truly need them. It is a matter of life or death. Landlines might work. Landlines are very, very rare. A true landline, meaning that there is a copper wire between your phone and the phone company, and there's no break in that. Those are very, very uncommon. Less than 10% of what we consider to be landlines here in Seattle are actually landlines. There is often, the majority of the time, there is a break in that copper wire somewhere. So they will not work if cell phone signals, internet kind of stuff goes down, which is very common after earthquakes. So don't make calls, even on a landline. Don't make it unless it's absolutely necessary. Again, so that somebody can get through if they truly have a life-saving, a life or death kind of issue. Texting is probably your best bet. When you text, you are sending out this little packet of information that swirls around in cyberspace until it can get delivered. As soon as you hang up a phone, your ability to communicate is over with, but sending out that text into cyberspace, it may get delivered a couple minutes later, it may get delivered a couple hours later. So your chances of getting through still remain even after you've sent the text. Texting is probably your best bet. Include the date and the time in each text because they may not go through right away, and your plans may change between when you sent the text and the time that it actually arrives. So put the date and the time in each text and make your message count. You want to tell them how you're doing, where you are, and what you plan on doing. The text on the screen says, OMG, what was that? Are you okay? Where are you? What do we do now? And lots of question marks. Not a very helpful text. You really haven't told the recipient, if they get that text, you haven't told them much other than your thumbs work. A much better text is something like this. I'm home and I'm fine. The pup is fine, meaning dog. Checking on neighbors, but staying put, 4:25 p.m. on a Tuesday. So that is a much better text to send. I've told them how I'm doing, where I'm at, and what my plan is. My plan is to stay put, assuming that they are on their way back to the house. Texting is your best bet, but make it count. An out-of-town contact. Find someone who your household would know, would be comfortable texting with. That person needs to be in Spokane, Washington, or further east. And what they do is they really just forward messages back and forth to these people. So if this is me, the family member, I'm going to text my family members plus my out-of-town contact. It's possible that the only person that will actually get my text is my out-of-town contact, because sometimes it's easier to get a text in and out of the city than across the city because our lines are so tied up. If I could get through to my out-of-town contact, that person's job is to just forward that email back down to the ground to the rest of my family members. All they do is relay messages between household members. They don't have to change the message. They just forward it on to help the folks on the ground stay in contact and help them communicate. So that's what your out of town contact person does, is they just relay messages between household members. Pick this person carefully. You do not want someone that lives north of us. You don't want British Columbia, Canada, and you don't want LA, California. You want somebody Spokane, Washington, or further east. So not on the West Coast. You don't want someone that's involved in the same large earthquake that we might be involved in. So Spokane or further east. And give them a to-do list. Not only can they help get text messages in and out of the city to keep everybody that's on the ground here informed, but they can also do other things for you. My out-of-town contact person happens to be my mother-in-law, who lives in Las Vegas, and she knows exactly what to do if ever we called her and said this was an emergency. She will call my parents because they're older and they don't get on the internet. I can't text them. So she will call older folks in my family, and she will also post on social media for us. Just go to Facebook, put on our pages, hey, I've heard from Ann, I've heard from Andrew, everybody's fine. I will post updates here as I get them. So she's just helping keep people informed and keep everyone's worry down. Give that out-of-town contact person a to-do list. Give them something to do. They will be more than happy to help, because my mother-in-law in Las Vegas can't do anything other than worry about us. So give her a job. So that's your out-of-town contact. I think I just went through all this. There's also a website that gets activated by the Red Cross. It's called Safe and Well. If we have internet access, we could also go on to that and you just kind of check in. They make this Safe and Well website active in areas where there's a disaster. So if Seattle had an earthquake, they would activate it here in Seattle. We could check in, people on the ground could check in and say, yes, I'm okay. And then folks from other places around the world could look at Safe and Well and find out that we have checked in. So at least at one point we were well enough to get on the internet and type our name in. Anything else you can think of that your out-of-town contact person could do for you, give it to them. But give them to them now, not after the disaster. You don't want to be messing with it then. But give them, if there's anything they can do, ask them to start doing it when they hear from you. Don't depend on your cell phone working. Very possible that it will break, or you'll lose it, or you drop it, or whatever. It falls in the water. Write down those important phone numbers, because most of us don't know a lot of those phone numbers. They're programmed into our phones and we don't ever have to worry about them. And this is on your to-do list. I'm going to ask you to write down those important phone numbers. This is an example of the phone numbers I wrote down on our cards. These are just 3x5 cards. I sat in front of the TV one night. I made my sample one, and then I made the other members of my family write theirs down as well. Just think of whose phone number you might want. This is just an example. I also want to encourage you to write down the phone numbers. Hopefully you can see this on there, of the emergency radio stations in our area. These are not radio stations that I listen to normally, so I don't have them programmed anywhere. But after a disaster, these radio stations should be up and running and hopefully sharing information with us. So write those down just as a reminder of places to go to get information. 3x5 cards, and then I stuck them in plastic bags, and I have like a zillion copies. We have copies in our cars, in our backpacks, a briefcase, my husband's commuter bag when he goes back and forth to work, everywhere you can think of that you might need it, your locker at work, your bike bag, whatever. Throw them everywhere, because you just never know when you're going to need them. I'm going to stop for just a second and look at the chat. Is Safe and Well site for Seattle only or national? Yeah, it is national. So any disaster in the US, Safe and Well is something you want to start looking for if you have loved ones in an area that's impacted by a disaster. Real quick, off-grid messaging. The top picture here, the mobile network, this is how we typically talk to one another using our cell phones, is using these towers. Well, if the tower is taken out, something still exists, but it works without cell phone towers, and it's called a mesh network. There are apps you can download onto your phone that will help you talk phone to phone until you can get that message, that text message to the person it's supposed to go to. So in this example on the left-hand side of the screen, if this is the phone that's sending the text, it's going to ping off of other phones using that same program until it finally gets to the person who the text message was meant to go to. So these phones have to all be fairly close together. I think it's like 50 feet. So they have to be fairly close. Maybe it's 50 yards. I don't know. Anyway, everybody has to have the same app, and everybody has to be close enough that the signal can bounce from phone to phone. So these phones kind of act like cell phone towers, and they forward the message on. So that's the general concept, is this of off-grid messaging. There used to be two fairly well-known apps that did this. It was FireChat and Bridgify. FireChat, to my knowledge, has gone out of business. I would download Bridgify. I'm pretty sure it's on your to-do list. I'm not strongly recommending these at all. I don't have great confidence that they will work, but it is a possibility. So we all need to download the same one, because if half of us are on FireChat and half of us are on Bridgify, it's not going to work. Another option, this kind of works the same way. It works using this mesh network, which is really just using other people's phones to get your message bounced to the right phone. Gotenna and Beartooth, these are two different options. It's your phone along with a secondary device. And let's say you and your partner were trying to communicate this way, you would both need one of these little devices. Not both this blue one and the gray one or the other, one company or the other, but you need these little devices. They kind of, I want to say they amplify your phone's signal. I'm not exactly sure that's true. Pairs with your smartphone, you can send a text and you can send GPS locations without cell or Wi-Fi signal. So when everything's down, these things would work. You can pair them with iPhones and Android phones, range of 1 to 6 miles. So again, you kind of have to be pretty close. They are a little pricey, $180 to $250 for two of these. And again, each person trying to use this has to have one of these little devices. The other way to communicate is called a satellite messenger. These are for folks that are truly backcountry, off the grid type travelers. You use satellite to transmit messages. So it's like sending a text using satellites in the air, in the atmosphere. You do have to pay a subscription. This isn't a pay as you go kind of thing. Pretty pricey. The subscription's pretty pricey, but it is a way to communicate if you're really, really concerned about it. What about radio? I'm not going to talk much about it. I'm just going to introduce the idea. So this would be either ham radio, GMRS radio, which is a little bit different, or FRS radio, family radio service. So different frequencies. The pros of a radio is that it doesn't rely on the cell phone towers. So if cell phone towers go down, you can still communicate. It will work when phone lines are down or they're overwhelmed because they don't use the towers, the regular cell phone towers. They run off of batteries, so you don't need the power running. You don't need electricity flowing into your house for them to work, but you need batteries. And you could take them with you. If you buy the right kind, it's designed to be mobile, so you can walk around and use it. The cons, you have to buy the equipment. It's not stuff that people have sitting around. And at least the ham radio, well, the ham radio and GMRS radios both have to have a license. So that's a little bit of money and some hassle. It's a little bit cumbersome, but it's doable. I did not grow up in a house with anybody using a radio, so it's something I've been able to learn as an adult. It's not hard, but it's not something that everybody knows about. If you want more information about radio, I can point you to a class that we did a while back. Make sure you sign up for Alert Seattle, Alert King County, because this is how the Seattle and the county are going to get us information about what's going on once texting is working. Make sure you write down these radio stations somewhere. If you have an emergency radio, like one of those cute little crank radios, I suggest you just take a magic marker and write on the side so you can find these radio stations when you might need them. Don't forget about local television that might be running and emergency communication hubs. The hubs are a really good place to get information. It's really what we do in the hub network is we try and gather and share information with our communities. So super, super local, really a fabulous resource. I think you guys will get a kick out of the hubs. Early earthquake warning. I love this stuff. I just think it's very interesting. Fortunately, with earthquakes, once a fault line slips, There are two different types of waves that are given off. There's a P wave and an S wave. The P wave comes out first. It travels really, really fast, but it doesn't cause much shaking. The S wave comes out next, comes out following the P wave, and it moves a little bit slower, but it's got all the shaking involved with it. So fortunately, this P wave comes out first, travels really fast, and we have the ability to pick it up. P waves, first and fast. Animals are more sensitive to P waves. They're not predictors of earthquakes. California's developed this first, Oregon came second, and now Washington State's on board as well. You need 4 different sensors to detect these P waves. It's sort of like to triangulate, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. You need 4 sensors that sense these P waves and can then send information back to a central area to figure out what's going on. It takes about 3 seconds to detect the quake and generate an alert. And then it takes a little bit more time to get that alert to people that might need it. A video that you have access to, it's on your to-do list, that explains a little bit more about this system, the early earthquake warning system.
P wave. With even a few seconds of warning, Shake Alert can save lives and reduce injuries by alerting people to take a protective action such as drop, cover, and hold on. Shake Alert further protects people and infrastructure by triggering automatic actions such as slowing down trains to prevent derailments, opening firehouse doors so they don't jam shut, and closing valves to protect water systems, and to stabilize equipment during life-critical situations. How does Shake Alert work? When an earthquake occurs, seismic waves carry energy in all directions away from the epicenter. P waves, similar to sound waves, move quickly through the ground, followed by the slower and generally more damaging S waves and surface waves. Sensors detect the seismic waves and send that information to a Shake Alert processing center, which requires that at least 4 sensors detect the earthquake. If the earthquake fits the right profile, the USGS issues a Shake Alert message. Distribution partners then produce and deliver an alert to people and trigger automated systems. Alert delivery can be before, during, or after shaking from S waves and surface waves. Alerts can be delivered to people through apps designed for cell phones and other wireless devices, over public address systems, TVs and radios, and by FEMA's Wireless Emergency Alert System, WEA, which is also the source of Amber Alerts. For every earthquake, there is a region near the epicenter where alerts will not arrive before shaking begins. That's because close to the epicenter, the P and S waves are too close together, and the Shake Alert system needs time, often just seconds, to estimate the earthquake's magnitude and shaking levels before issuing a Shake Alert message. That means that people close to the earthquake epicenter might not get an alert until after the shaking has already started. Those farther away from the epicenter could receive more warning time before shaking arrives.
So that's how the early earthquake warning system works. I want to encourage you to be understanding. The system works really well. It just doesn't always work perfectly for everybody. And like they said in the video, if you're really close to the epicenter, you don't have enough time to get that warning before the shaking starts. I'm going to ask you to be understanding with this system, and I'm going to ask you to spread understanding. People are quick to criticize, and they need to understand the system's working right. It just doesn't work great for everyone all the time. You might get a warning that an earthquake is coming, but no shaking comes. And so you throw up your hands and you go, stupid system. It's always going off and nothing ever happens. I'm going to start ignoring it, which is not a good idea. It went off for a reason. Somebody got severe enough shaking to have triggered that alarm. You may not have felt the shaking, but somebody sure did. So do not ignore the warnings. You may get a warning, but little shaking, and you go, oh, okay, well, it works great, but it's telling me that none of these earthquakes are worth paying attention to. So even if I get an alarm, I'm not going to pay attention. Again, not something you should do, because just because there wasn't massive amounts of shaking last time doesn't mean the next one coming up isn't going to be stronger. So take every single one of them serious and help educate those around you, because you're going to hear people griping about the system and complaining. Try your best to help them understand what's going on so that we don't ignore warnings and we do the right thing every single time. It's going to take probably decades to build trust in the system and understanding and some empathy with the system. You may experience shaking and the warning comes later. And again, you throw up your hands and you go, ah, stupid system, doesn't work right. Well, it does work right. You were just really close to the epicenter. So luckily, people further away did get some heads up. It's a shame you didn't, but it doesn't mean the system doesn't work. It just means you were really close to the epicenter. There's different ways that you can get these emergency alerts. The one that is currently in place is called Shake Alert. It's the same as the wireless emergency alert system, the WEA. If you have a smartphone that can accept WEA messages, and I'm going to go to the next one, they are similar to Amber Alerts. That sound that you heard, if you've ever gotten an Amber Alert on your phone, you know that sound. That's what all WEA messages sound like, and that's what a message from Shake Alert will sound like, is that Amber Alert kind of signal. If your smartphone can get Amber Alerts, can get WEA alerts, you will get them. Android phones have them built in a little bit easier. iPhones, you have to go in and you have to turn it on a little bit. You also have to let this system, the WEA system, know where you are. It can't send you a message, any kind of text-like message, if it doesn't know that you're close to the earthquake area. It has to know where you are. The same way with Amber Alerts. You don't get Amber Alerts if you don't have them turned on, because they don't know that you're in the area. It's new as of January 26th of this year, so not even a month ago, the MyShake app became available. And this is an app like built by someone other than the US Geological Service. So the MyShake app is here. I've given you directions on how to download it on your phone. You do want both of them. One of them works faster than the other one sometimes. So get them both. No reason not to. The MyShake app is free. Download it, put it in with all the other apps that you have that are there for emergency purposes. Forget all about it until it goes off. When it goes off, you're going to want to drop, cover, and hold. Don't go, I wonder what that is. I wonder how long it's going to be until the earthquake hits. If you hear it, get down on the ground, get down before you're thrown down. Even if you look like a fool, you might be the smartest person in the room if you're down on your hands and knees before everybody else. The other thing to do is to yell to other people to get down, because they're not going to know what to do. Tell them, drop down, hands and knees, get under the table. Give them some guidance, because you guys know what you're doing and not everybody does. The MyShake app is the only app capable of delivering earthquake early warnings in Washington state at this time. You will see down the road, you will see other apps become available besides the MyShake app. That's fine, download them all. It's just this is the only one that's currently up and running. And you do want both of them. Like I said, sometimes one is faster than the other. We have about 65% of the sensors in place here in Washington state that we need. We are far behind California and we are behind Oregon. Washington is very slow to move on this stuff. It's just political will and money. We're getting there, but we don't have all the sensors in place. As soon as all the sensors in place, we have as good a system as we can have. Late 2025, we should have all the sensors in place. If you hear the alert from whatever app, however you get it, drop, cover, and hold on, and get others around you to do the same thing. This is what people tend to do if they're not trained on what they're supposed to do. You're going to watch you're going to watch every single person want to get out of this building, which is just not a good idea. There is no sound for this video. So people are scrambling to get outside. You can see that tall cabinet on the left looks like it's about to tip over. I'm surprised it didn't. And now he finally leaves. That's an example of what you're not supposed to do in an earthquake. You're not supposed to try and leave the building or leave the room. Get down underneath that table. They would have been a lot better off, probably wouldn't have jammed their hands in the doors. Class next week, make a plan. So, what does that mean? We talk about it all the time, and I just think it's too vague of guidance. So, I'm going to talk through a plan that we have in my household and then answer any questions that you might have about what your plan should look like, and then also how to make a get home bag. If we are away from home when the earthquake strikes, we are more than likely going to be walking home because it will be power lines that drop in the middle of the road. It will be concrete that falls from underneath the overpasses and blocks the road. If the earthquake is bad enough, traffic will stop. The buses, the light rail, all that kind of stuff is supposed to stop until we know that it's safe to move. Folks are going to be walking long distances. Make sure you have with you what you would need to make that walk more tolerable.